Behind the Wheel podcast here with me and El Presidente. And
wow. Very formal.
Yeah, and headphones on today, so we have a guest with us. We have Formula Drift PROSPEC driver Cole Richards with us. Cole, what's going on?
What's up?
Yeah, so Cole's you're in your sophomore season right now for FD PROSPEC, right?
Pretty much. This is my second year.
Yeah. So we ran with Cole last year, and you end up winning Rookie of the Year, and also first place at Englishtown. So really big year last year, and we're really excited to be working with you again for a second year in a row. And obviously the dudes at CoreWorks, we love working with them as well. So yeah, we're happy to have you on the podcast, man.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. I mean, we have FD Atlanta right around the corner next week. I think this podcast is going to go up on Wednesday, so it's going to be the Wednesday right before the event. I guess we could start with how has prep been in the off season getting ready for the first event?
Yeah, for sure. It's been good. It's been tough. Just like everyone else experiences these things. For us, what we did, we had a front mount radiator last year that it was good, but we had some issues most of the time. Every time we got through top 4 or top 8, I believe, we were having issues just with either FD cones hitting us or other people hitting into us. And we just always had some radiator issues. So we decided to move the radiator in the back and just update the car on some more things, update the wiring. The wiring that has been in the car has been there since 2014. Mm-hmm. So it was a good time to just update everything to the current standards of Formula Drift.
Nice.
And so far the car's been great.
It's awesome, man. Like, with Formula Drift coming up next week or whatever it is, I'm super excited to see everyone that's going to be there. We have a pretty big roster when it comes to PROSPEC and Pro, so it's always really cool. I wish we'd go down to the event. I think John, one of the guys from our marketing team, might be heading down over there. So if he's there, I'll tell him to say what's up to you.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, man.
It should be exciting this year. A lot of new faces that I've never seen before, or people that I used to compete against in grassroots are now stepping up to PROSPEC, and I'm excited to battle with the homies again.
Cool. So sometimes when new faces come in, they're still familiar, and it's cool to see them now up to that level, I guess, right?
For sure, it is.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And
so along with that new level, is there that point where you get these guys that are coming up to from Pro-Am into PROSPEC, and there's always that thing, like when you've been in PROSPEC and you maybe had a little bit of seat time against some of the other competitors, right? You kind of have some sort of, well, maybe like a mental acuity of where you think that they're going to be, how consistent they are. You kind of know their driving style a little bit. So maybe there's a little bit more of a comfortable nature when you have to go into a tandem or you're chasing them or whatever it may be. But like now the Pro-Am guys come up, and it's like they're adapting to a lot of things, right? Like it's not just the driving, it's the nerves, right? Like I'm sure your first few times out, like there's that level of nerves that happens. You're on a different stage than you've been on before. Like the cars are different, the driving's different. You're going against a level that, arguably they probably have experienced at some point if they're coming from Pro-Am to PROSPEC. But like, is there a big nature when you start seeing and driving against some of these guys that are kind of fresh to PROSPEC?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a really big double-sided sword, because now I'm in the position where, okay, I need to start watching out for the grassroots people, because they're now stepping up to PROSPEC, and you can, see them on Instagram, how they drive and whatnot, but you never drove with them before.
Yeah.
And you're not going to know what they do up until you see their first couple of laps on practice. And it was a really weird thing for me last year, because almost no one knew who I was coming into PROSPEC. Mm-hmm. And I knew who everyone else was. So right. It's weird, because I saw everyone driving in PROSPEC through previous years, and then I finally made it. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm driving with people I looked up to. Mm-hmm. And like some of the drivers, it was a nasty curveball coming to me. It felt like, it's like, wow, I never got a really, how I don't even know how to word it, but it's like I never got like a fair battle. It felt like it always seems like someone was playing games
Yeah, the
or
deck was
just trying to
stacked, right?
do, yeah, trying to do the extra things to have them win through like a technical level rather
Yeah,
than just a heads up battle.
yeah,
Mhm.
And I hate driving like that. But I think most of the new people that are coming into the sport and coming into FD, they're there to always do a heads up battle. I know Alan Boss, we had some battles back in East 10, and he always gave it to me. I always gave it to him. And he's one of the people that I'm especially looking out for this year because he's a hell of a driver,
Mhm.
and I can't wait to drive with him again.
He's actually going to be on our stuff this year.
Okay, for
Yeah,
sure.
so Alan's going to be riding with us this year, which is really cool too. So first year with him, first year in ProSpec, so that's exciting. He's going to be part of
yeah.
Human's team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yep.
I mean I don't know if that's out there yet, but this won't go up until next week anyway, so it'll be revealed
Yeah,
by
I think
then.
I saw it today. Actually, FD posted about it.
Okay, cool. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. One thing that I thought of just from that, when you talk about some of the grassroots drivers, like I would imagine there are people out there that are really, really great drivers that don't want to compete maybe in Formula Drift, maybe just for the schedule or just the rigidity of having to like not be on their own time. Maybe they work and they can't, do a full season or something like that. I wonder how many of those drivers are just like up to the skill level where, it's like, man, these guys should be driving with pros. Who knows? I mean, I don't know how many people are out there that have that kind of skill set that aren't in a series like Formula Drift.
Yeah, and that's where I think it gets to more of a personal level where I'm doing competition because I want to be the best. I want to just push myself as hard as I can to always reach the podium no matter what and just deal with everything that happens from running a pro team and get to the podium where you have people who I don't want to classify them as weekend warriors,
Yeah.
but they could be running the Pro 1 class given a car and they could do it with their eyes closed. That's how good of a driver they are.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't care because to them, drifting is more about having fun and a style thing and having their own car and having their car look good and stuff like that, where they don't care about competition. They're just doing it for fun and driving with friends.
Yeah.
Right. But there is that level, right? Like there is that level of, FD is it's an entirely different animal. Like, and I'm sure that was probably one of the biggest learning curves you had in your rookie year last year is that it's not just about driving. See, like you obviously know that when you're going to run a pro-am type program, you're going to run kind of an exhibition style drifting, kind of schedule, right? That you're going in there, you're obviously going to have to make sure your car works. There's going to be a nut and bolt check. There's going to be making sure you're, wrenching on the car prior. But like the stress level of leaving and definitive schedules, they're a little bit more flexible, and the budget is up for negotiation. It doesn't cost as much to kind of compete in some of these events, right? So, that's one of the hardest parts that I have heard for so many years when these drivers step up is like, it's the program. It's running the program that's so, is the worst part of it. And if you're one of those people that's lucky enough to have a program that you can just show up and drive, amazing. But there's probably 2, maybe 3 people in ProSpec that have that close. I mean, one is I always forget his name. The new to Jerry Yang Racing. The
Nate?
No.
Oh, Jerry ain't
The really young.
Oh,
kid.
Manoa. But
Manoa,
he's pro this year though.
Right. What's that?
He's pro this year. Pro 1.
Right. But what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
like you get these people that like are able to come in. They get these programs. That's great. But like that's few and far between.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's not like I hate to compare it to NASCAR, but it's like there's a lot of arrive and drive programs on NASCAR, I believe.
Right.
And for FD, we have a handful. Like I think the only guys that were doing it last year were Odie and ProSpec, and that was about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because Ben drove with Odie, and that was the only arrive and drive program on ProSpec. But it's the hard battles that isn't in FD, it's just getting to FD.
Right.
That's the hardest part.
Right.
Once you're in a car, like we've heard Rome, Vaughn, all these top guys who've been drifting for 20 plus years,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
they have all talked about it and preached about it. The hardest part is just going to the event,
Yeah.
prepping your car, getting everything from the closed back doors that no one else gets to see, and just going to the event. Once you're at the event, that's the easy part. Now you can
Yeah.
have fun, you can drive your car. The only thing you have to worry about is, crashing your car and fixing it within 5-10 minutes.
Right.
That's the only hard
Just
part.
that.
Yeah.
But it's actually getting to the event. That's the hard part. That's what really, in my eyes, makes or breaks a driver. And it's who can kind of juggle the most amount of stuff that they have to deal with
Yeah.
on getting to the FD rounds.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's that kind of is a really good question. It leads up to like from the time that the season ended last year up until now, preparing for the first event. Like, how do you kind of break down that off season in between time, like in terms of leisure and obviously personal stuff that you want to do, and then how much time do you actually dedicate to seat time or whatever it may be, or fixing the car, doing anything that you need to do, prep it for the season.
Yeah, for us last year, after Utah, the car it wasn't totaled, but it has been beat on very hard. The last battle, I had to almost run third and second because I was just not making any more power with the radiator and the motor just kind of giving up and just not wanting to push that extra little bit. Granted, it got me through the final battle, and I am extremely pleased with my team for getting that and having that happen. But right after Utah, the car kind of sat for almost a month and a half just because I had other things, personal reasons, and building my shop out that I just moved into, and just so many other things just happening where I never got to start on the FR-S as soon as I wanted to because we were still. You don't need to take apart a car to then figure out what you're going to do because we knew we wanted to put the radiator in the back and just change some things around. And the planning aspect of it was the hardest part because we knew what we wanted to do, but especially in the FR-S platform, the ZN6 chassis, you have limited amount of space. Like my bumper is this big. I have this much clearance before a wall and a battery hits, if that makes sense.
Wow.
As soon as I tap something, we need to check the subframes. We need to check everything to make sure nothing moves because the chassis is just so tiny and so compact. It's a great platform and I have it dialed, but it's just a very, very, very tiny car.
Yeah.
So it's just the planning aspect was the hardest part for us. And just rebuilding a motor and getting parts, that was the scary part as well, where a lot of these parts that we use couldn't be off the shelf. They were all custom made.
Right.
And it was that was the hardest part, was finding the solution to the issue.
And I think it's an interesting point too. Like when I think about, your radiator move, but maybe for some people that don't think about this in the same light, but like so much of success in drifting is that reliability, right? Not just of the driver, but of the car. Because the more time you wrench on the car, the more issues you have with the car, the more time you're trying to struggle and focus your energy on fixing the car or getting the car to run right. So it's like, obviously you spoke about the radiator move to the rear so that you don't have to worry about hitting things or, you make a tap on, to somebody else or, whatever it may happen. And all of a sudden now, like the primary function that you need to run, like a cooling system, is now completely, damaged or leaking or whatever it may be. So now you got to figure that out. But like, even into the chassis, development, bash bars, things like that. Like obviously, like you said, like every platform has its pros and cons, and one that that FR-S platform kind of disadvantages it has is just this short nature. So you start putting things in places, and that they're vulnerable in certain circumstances. So, like, what other things did you guys try to do in the off season to kind of increase that reliability besides the radiator?
Yeah, for sure. I think while we were building the car, you have to work your way in and then out. So bumpers were obviously the last thing that we made,
Mm-hmm.
but from the radiator, from the fuel cell moving, from the dry sump to the swirl pot, everything that we had and we had planned, wrote down on a piece of paper, designed it in CAD, everything that we have done, we probably changed it 35 times.
Yeah.
Damn.
So it's like, oh, all right, we finally got to this point. Okay, cool. We're gonna have the radiator here. Oh, well, we can't have the dry sump here now. So now we need to relocate that. Oh, well, now we can't have the fuel cell there. So it's you can get a design and you can stick with it, but then we start thinking about the reliability and if you crash and if someone hits into you,
Yeah.
all right, cool. That's going to fly off if we put that right there. No
Yeah.
matter how secure it is, that's going to shift, it's going to move, things are going to get unplugged. We can't put that there. We need to keep that more secure and push it more to the center of the car. As well, we were thinking about just the weight changes and trying to take more grip out of the car with weight and moving weight in front of the rear axles instead of behind it to get that initial dig from the weight transfer. So it was just little things like that. And then we also had issues with the wiring where we had two companies cancel on us for rewiring the car.
Right.
And if you guys know about that system and that just rewiring a car, it's not fun.
Nope.
You have to find someone that you trust to do it. And our boys at AE Race Fab got us hooked up, and
Nice.
they did that pretty much last minute. And that was the scariest part because we had companies that told us, okay, rip the whole wiring unit out so we can just string wire it.
Yeah.
And then they just canceled on us.
Right.
So
So
it's
there
like,
you are with no harness and electrics in the car, and you're like, hey, like we have a very definitive date to have to use this car.
yeah,
It'd be great if we can actually like
Use it.
use it.
yeah, that was the scariest part. And it's like, I don't know how to wire a car. It's like a whole thing that you have to learn and do. And I don't have time for that as a driver. And just
Yeah.
doing everything else. My crew guys don't have time to learn that because they're building a car.
Yeah.
My fab guys doing fab work. It's like we didn't have time for any of that stuff to happen, but here we are with our deadlines still met with just you have to make it happen.
Yeah.
It's like once you get someone on board, you need to keep them on board. And if they have the same drive as you to be the best and get to the podium every time, then those deadlines are going to get met.
Yeah.
Nice.
But that's tough. Like when you start to bring in people, like all right, so is your crew primarily develop? I mean, obviously we know that, the good old boys from Coral Works are out there representing, and holding it down for you. But like, is your primary crew made up of friends or people that you found or paid people or experienced people? Like, how does your crew come to be?
For sure. Our crew last season was my crew chief was Ron Eworth, who I met because we live in the same town, and he used to be an ex Formula Drift driver as well. And he's the one who originally built the FRS.
Okay.
And he built that car in 2014. And it was a wild story on how we met, but that's like a whole nother story. So the rest of my crew guys were all met through the sim, and I flew them in to every round to put tires on the car, put tires on the car and gas in the car, and that was that. We none of my crew guys knew how the YSFAB suspension worked or anything like that, or even how to change a belt. Like we were all learning that, or my crew guys were all learning that at the track. So it's like we were just kind of going off of a limb all of last year. But now I have my crew chief, Ron Eworth, and then I have my main crew guy, Preston, who has been doing a lot. He's 19. He's been killing it. Like the knowledge he has for being 19 and his drive is just wanting to be the best and getting a car that he has built and put his hands on to the podium as well is insane. For being 19, he is the most mature 19-year-old I've ever met. And his whole drive is just having one of the cleanest cars on grid and always getting it to the podium.
Right.
Well, speaking of being insane, while we're on that topic, I mean, you're about the same age, right? How old are you?
I'm 20.
So 20. I mean, speaking of you know incredible stuff, I mean, you're 20 years old with Rookie of the Year Formula Drift PROSPEC under your belt, which is really extraordinary in its own right. So congrats to that, by the way. But
Thank you.
yeah, I mean that's awesome. But yeah, a lot of work going into the prepping of the car for the season. It sounds like really that's the like you said the hardest part.
Yeah, it's just getting a car ready for FD and making sure sponsor criteria is met as well, and just making sure that you have 7 8 crew guys all just happy and like no one's arguing and everyone's just doing what they should be doing. That's the hardest part. It's like just getting the car to FD. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, drift
Once
teams.
you're at FD, it works.
Drift teams are like a big dysfunctional family, right? Like you spend so much time together for a certain amount of hours, and then you all have to mesh. On your team, who's your spotter?
My spotter is Taka Awana.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like that's it's interesting. You guys show up at the track last year, first event, and you're kind of feeling everything out. You don't know. What's going on here? You don't have settings, right? Like, I mean, wait. So the first PROSPEC event last year was at.
It would have been the same. It would have been Atlanta.
Was it Atlanta last year?
Road Atlanta.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
So when you get to Road Atlanta, have you driven? You've driven that event before. You've driven that track before with the horseshoe and everything, or is that the first time?
First time.
Damn.
That was my first time even playing with the two-way fuel suspensions coilovers.
Okay. Yep.
It was scary. I'm not gonna lie. Putting a car and a driver that I've never done that track.
Yeah.
That just put brand new coilovers on.
Yep.
Brand new Wise Fab. It was scary. But I had Ronnie Worth, Taka Awana, who are both pro FD drivers back in the day. They were there, like they know what to do. It was like they obviously haven't drove a pro car in years, but they know what to do with a car and they know what needs to be done. And they have their own what's the word I'm looking for? I don't even know, but like they know. They know. I trust them fully heartedly. Where Taka says something in the radio, it's like, hey, you need to go to outside zone 2 and hold it there for a second longer. Like, where are you looking? Like, look at the wall. It's like, that's the number one thing you taught me was don't look at the wall. Look where you want to go. I don't want to look at the wall.
Right.
It's like,
if you look at the wall, that's where you're going to go.
Exactly. But that's what you have to do at Road Atlanta. That's like, after the event last year, it was terrible. I got knocked down to top 32 with the transmission that exploded on me. And I was like so heartbroken, just beat down, I don't even know. I was just like lost for words. Like I was just putting myself down for what happened. And now we are with RTS, so we'll never have a transmission issue again. But Road Atlanta is one of the most fun tracks, but it also, I don't want to say it penalizes you the most because Long Beach does and Washington and Irwindale with walls, but that's one track where you don't have walls, but if you're not driving at 100%, it shows. You're not hitting the zones, you're not hitting the marks. Outer Zone 2, like we were talking about, you have to look at the wall in order to hit Outer Zone 2. And it's like the one thing where you're going on top of the keyhole and you're looking at the wall, then you're looking immediately away. And it's just the most insane feeling.
So let's walk this through. So you've never been in Road Atlanta before, and the first thing to me that Road Atlanta is that super memorable first entrance, right? It's that first initiation. You're going downhill, you're gaining a lot of speed coming down that hill, and there's this beautiful section of what I like to call very poetic kitty litter that's scattered just across from that. So when you miss that first initiation, if you were to miss it, you get rewarded with something that just will never come off your car for years to come. So what does it feel like? You're going down this track. How fast are you going? Almost 100 miles an hour?
That track's scary.
Yeah.
The first time I got to the line to do a run, I was leading, and I radioed into my spotter saying, I don't see the road because it dips down.
Oh, wow.
So
It's
far.
like, you don't see the run up.
Yep.
It's scary, but it's so much fun. Last year, I believe, I wanted to see how fast I could do on a initiation.
Yeah.
And my friend Zandara was chasing me, and I'm very sorry. I always tell her I'm sorry about this because I did a 108 mile per hour initiation, and I went 3 off into the kitty litter because I just overcooked it, and I'm still finding the kitty litter
I'm
in
telling
my car.
you.
Yeah,
I know.
wow.
After we washed it, after like a
Yeah.
full pressure wash, we're
Yeah.
still finding kitty litter.
Yep.
Just
Oh,
in the
man.
body panels and all of that. It's like, how are you still in there?
Yep.
Wow.
It's crazy. So you come down this turn, and it's hard because like you have to initiate really far because of the speed before you get to that first clipping point. So like, what does that feel like? Like, how do you know, other than maybe, and I'll ask you in a second kind of how you got prepped for it, but like, how do you know when it's time to like really initiate hard and just give it all you got?
For sure. So we're coming down that hill, fourth gear pinned, and there's a couple of different initiations you can do.
Yep.
You can take it a little bit easier on just like a straight line initiation. You can add a little faint flick, stuff like that. But you really just have to have that seat time and knowledge where, okay, I'm a handbrake now. I have 3.5 seconds until I hit that first zone, that first interclip. I need to be back on throttle as soon as possible so I can dig myself out and not go into the kitty litter.
Right.
Yeah.
As well, it's all about your looking zone. So I'm looking at light posts, flags, different sponsor signs, stuff like that, where I'm not looking at the track. I'm looking at, okay, I need to be looking way over here. After I transition, I need to be looking at the top of the bridge.
Okay.
So it's all just different. It's different for every driver,
Yeah.
but you really have to know your car on that track because you only have, I don't know exactly how long the track is, but I want to say it's maybe 15 feet wide. Maybe a little bit longer. I'm just kind of guessing right now, but that's not a big
Margin for error.
yeah, it's a scary track, but it's so much fun and it's so fast.
So you're physically
looks
there one time though. So
Yep.
how do we prep for this? How do we get that muscle memory? How do we get those looking points? Are we using a sim before we get there, or is it like I speak to everybody I know and just in practice hope I get close on my looking points? Like how do we do it?
For sure. I will say the sim helps a lot. It has helped for every other track but Atlanta.
Why is that?
It doesn't translate. In my opinion, that's the only track. Maybe I'm just not on the right track or whatever. But even last year, I did maybe 50 laps a day for Road Atlanta and then just hours and hours on the sim practicing for Road Atlanta. As soon as I did it, I'm like, oh my God, that's nothing like the sim. I wasted so many hours. It's like the looking points are different because the track changes. And it's the different initiation spots are different. Everything's just a little bit different where it adds up so much once you do the track in real life.
Right.
So is it just lack of accuracy for the track in the game, or so that's what
I believe so.
Okay.
Because the track in the game for New Jersey, almost 100% accurate.
Right.
Yeah.
Almost 100% accurate. Me and Casey Cole, another Koenig driver, I believe,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
we did so many laps on New Jersey, and he was my first battle at New Jersey.
And you're like, I know how this is going to go.
Yeah. So like I could tell with his driving and my driving, we both knew how we drive, because we had probably over 500 laps on New Jersey on the sim, where it's like, oh, he's going to do this right when he transitions, so I can start my transition earlier to be on his door sooner.
Right.
So it's little things like that where that helps transition from the sim to real life.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like that probably almost negatively impacts you when you spend that much time developing this muscle memory on one track, and then you get there and like none of it applies.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's like a giant slap on the face because you just spent so many hours practicing for this track.
Yeah.
And you've done so many laps and it just doesn't translate. That's the only track I know of that doesn't translate, just because the hill's a lot more wild in real life, and going up the hill and down the hill, it's completely different. It just doesn't make sense.
So have you steered clear of using your sim for this upcoming event for the most part?
We still use the sim. I haven't been on it as much just because we've been very busy, but if I can hop on it every 3 days maybe, then I feel comfortable. And especially now, we finished the car a lot earlier. Well, we made our deadlines, but I didn't expect us to actually be driving the car this soon in the year, where I got almost the whole month of April to test the car, and I got to finally play with the Feel two-way suspension coilovers, and it's been so much better. Like I said, like my first time ever driving two-way coilovers was the first lap I rode Atlanta.
Right.
So it was like completely different. But now I'm at a point where I feel a lot more comfortable in my own car rather than last year. Like we were just one basic setting and we never changed anything. Like
Really?
I just changed how I drove.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because like one of the big things you see, and one of the big advantages that happens, especially in somebody's first year when they jump from PROSPEC up to pro, right, is that ability that the guys that have been in pro, they have notes for every setting and every setup that they've ever done at that track, right? Whereas the guy that maybe is in PROSPEC and doesn't hit those tracks sometimes, like sometimes they're seeing the track for the first time. They don't have any of those settings. So to get the car dialed in and to start your practice and really have that ability, it takes them quite a bit longer. So you're saying that, you didn't really do a lot of like suspension settings, toe settings, like you didn't like nothing, like just full on. I'll deal with it in the driving style and hope it works out.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
We're at Atlanta. I remember this because first time ever feeling the two-way coilovers. It's insane.
Is it?
We did 2 clicks harder up front for the compression to help with the weight balance, because I told my spotter, okay, I would like some more grip coming out of the chicane.
Okay.
How can we do that? Taka radioed in, okay, do 2 clicks harder on the compression. And then I went out, I'm like, I feel like a lot faster. Like, I don't know how only 2 clicks did anything, but it did. And I feel a lot faster.
Wow.
And we did maybe a click at New Jersey, but we didn't touch anything because we didn't know how the car was going to react.
Right.
Especially at New Jersey, we didn't want to go into a wall.
Yeah.
So we didn't do anything that had massive change.
Right.
There was just no point. It was like all of last year was get your toes wet, see what happens. Don't expect to win anything. You're going to get knocked out.
Yeah.
This is your first year. Don't expect anything too high of myself. And that's kind of what I told myself. Like, don't expect anything.
Right.
Like, I saw these guys driving on the live stream. Like, these guys are a lot better than me. Like, I just don't expect anything. Just drive with them. Have fun. Drive at your own pace. Just keep it simple. Don't do anything stupid. And then it just, yeah.
Well, I mean, look, for somebody that was just trying to get their toes wet, good dip, my dude. You know what I mean? Like,
rookie of the year ain't too bad for getting your toes wet.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, so, and that's was there a point coming in even to PROSPEC for your rookie year where there was a level of intimidation that you had to get rid of.
sure.
And so like how difficult is it to let it go? Like this, I've heard this from different people and different drivers in different stages, right? Where there's always a level of anxiousness or nervousness, however you want to refer to it, but then there's always that other piece, which is like, for the guys that have been around for a long time, when you start to come into the sport, like, you've been watching them for years, and they have this level, like, it's almost like you know them but you don't know them, right? So now you come into this thing, and like, for you to be able to focus, so everybody says that there's like this time where they get to a point where they're able not necessarily to let go of that anxiousness or nervousness, but they're able to drop that thing about who's next to them. It just becomes like, I'm focused on driving. Did that happen to you right away? Was it as soon as you started getting into battles, or was it like, did it take events to get there?
That's another thing that the sim has helped with.
Okay.
Doing sim competitions, that I have more, I don't want to say anxiety, but when I'm on the line for a sim competition, I feel a lot more anxious, and like, I don't know how the car's going to feel. I don't know how the car's going to react, because I'm only feeling it through the steering wheel rather than my hips in the car.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm a lot more nervous on the sim than I am in real life.
Wow.
I go back to the topic of the hardest part about FD is just getting there.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm 5 minutes away from FD, I'm terrified. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm terrified. Like, the doubt is huge, and every driver deals with it. It's getting to the track and just getting in your car. That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
And once I'm in my car, I feel unstoppable. Like,
that's awesome.
Good luck keeping up. Like, I feel good. Like, once I'm in my own car and I do that first lap that no one wants to do, okay, I feel good. Like, today's gonna be a good day. That's when the positivity and energy starts just going up and up and up.
Yeah.
Like, just getting there and doing that first lap is the hardest part.
Right. And so you talked about the sim. You weren't one of the ones, which is actually a rarity, I think, now, but like, you weren't one of the ones that actually started on a sim and then translated into a car, right? Like, yep. I know I've spoken to Novak about this quite a bit.
So
because
Novak started on a sim.
One of the things, I got a sim recently, and I'm absolutely terrible, so don't even worry about that. That wasn't where I was going with this.
Scott's not going to be in PROSPEC anytime soon.
No, I'm not going to make PROSPEC anytime soon. But the interesting thing to me is, like, I remember saying to Nick, like we were just BSing one day, and I was like, but is it going to translate? And he's like, no. He's like, it definitely will translate, right? He goes, I think it's more detrimental to the guys that started in a car and have to drive the sim versus the guys that started in a sim and then have to drive the car. Because, like, if you come from that feeling, like, you learn to, like, if you've come from a car already, you're using your body's feel to judge how your driving is, right? He's like, but when you come from a sim, you learn to drive with your eyes. And he's like, and then you add the other elements into it, and it only makes you better, right? Well, I guess, so two parts. One, do you agree with that? But, like, is there a lot of truth to that whole thing about getting prepped and the sim and all that stuff?
I think as long as you can get on a sim, you're going to be better than the next guy who's not on a sim.
Yeah.
So I started out with Taka in Drift School USA, and I was driving a 90 horsepower AE86 doing donuts. And it wasn't until I got through almost the end of his school driving a 500 horsepower IS300 that I hate, by the way. Car sucks, Taka. Get rid of it. Put a wastegate on it, or put a blow-off valve on it. One of the two, I forget now. But I started off on the sim right after I almost finished his school, and I had to teach myself how to drive a car on the sim rather than vice versa. Where, okay, I know how to sim, now I need to learn how to drive a car in real life.
Right.
I feel like that's a lot easier than, oh, I know how the car is going to react in real life, it's not translating on the sim. I feel like I should just quit. Like
Wow.
for almost a month, 2 months,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how it felt. It's like I don't want to even sim drive. Like I just need to do 3 hours a day and just practice and then get off. Like as
Yeah.
soon as I was getting angry at it or felt frustrated, get off, because I could be linking these crazy courses at Drift School USA and I couldn't even do a donut in the sim. Like that's
I
how
get that.
crazy the sim to car is, if that
Yep.
makes sense. It's like I had to start off on the sim by doing donuts and then doing figure eights and then doing massive donuts and then doing massive figure eights and just basically reteaching myself how to drift.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like I never thought I had to do that, but I did. And it was like a giant, like, I don't want to say ego check, but it's like I know how to drift in real life. Why can't I drift on the sim?
I get
Wow.
it.
Go
Because like
back to the beginning.
I have no good real life drifting experience. But but I've driven, I've done time attack, I've done some road racing a little bit, a little bit. I mean, I'm not, let's not glorify this more than it needs to be, but like what I mean is like, I was big into drag racing back in the day, so that's my track experience, right? But I'm used to driving a car, and so I get this sim, and I'm like super pumped because now as I get old and fat, well, I'm already fat, but you know what I mean. I get older while I'm fat. I'm having these things where it's like, I don't get, with having kids, like I don't get to go to the track anymore. It's too far away. They shut them all down around here. We're in the New York area. Like it's just like it costs a bunch of money. I'd have to take a whole weekend to do something. I lose, that my time at home. So I buy this sim and I'm like, this is going to be great because I can drive even if I only have a half an hour. I could drive a little bit, where I want, download the right tracks that I want to drive the different events, play with some different cars. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's going to be at least me getting some, just feeling like I'm not totally not doing anything, right? But
Yeah.
the funny thing was when it comes to drifting, I was linking, different courses, but I couldn't do a counter steer maintained donut. Like I literally would sit there and try to do that whole thing where you start and you hold the wheel to the left and try to and I just couldn't do it. Like I would spin out and spin out and spin out and spin out and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like I have a better control on the sim track like in an actual turn than I do just trying to do a stupid donut. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
Well,
It
one,
sucks.
I think it's so crazy that you started on a drifting in a car prior to a sim just based on your age alone is what I think is so crazy. But like, so when you were doing the U.S. Drift School, how old were you when you were doing that?
I believe I just turned 17.
What
I
made
think.
what makes you want to go do that? Where's that come from?
So originally I raced what's it called? Motocross. Did
Okay.
endurance racing. So I did like 3 hour hair scrambles through the woods. And that was a blast. Broke my collarbone, decided, all right, I'm done with that. Cars feel a little bit safer. Let's do
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Didn't know what I wanted to do. So I did some drag racing with Roy Hill out
Okay.
in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then didn't like that at all because that was the scariest feeling
Yeah.
where you're just foot to the floor expecting the car to just break traction and
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
Wild feeling. Don't know how drag racers do it.
Yeah.
And then I did some radical racing at AMP, Atlanta Motorsports Park.
Okay.
Another crazy feeling of going from like 20 miles per hour to 130 and then braking and just hitting crazy G-forces.
Yeah, those
that
cars are pretty crazy.
I wasn't used to. Nuts. Those things are wild.
Yeah.
Didn't like that either. That was a good experience though. Then I did Dirtfish Rally. I'm like, okay, that feels a little bit better than everything else I did. Like, I can feel the car breaking traction and just going as fast as I can through the woods. It's just like endurance racing I was doing on motocross.
Right.
And I like that a lot. And then I got to talking to, I forget the guy's name over at Dirtfish. I want to say it's Adam. I could be wrong, but Dylan Hughes used to work at Dirtfish
Right.
Oh,
and kind
cool.
of learned how to drift there. So I'm like, oh, all right, cool. I'll start, I did some of their classes, loved it. And then we randomly found Drift School USA on Facebook, or it was like maybe some website they had.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, let's go do it. It's like we did a class, we did a 2-day class. I loved it. I love Taka and Yoshi. They just immediately they treat every driver that they have like their own son or daughter,
Yeah.
and that's all they want to do is just teach people how to drift.
Right.
And now I'm bringing them back into FD, and they love it. And it's just they love the drifting community and just
Yeah.
teaching people how to drift. And they just did wonders for me. It's like from not knowing how any car control works or anything like that, from just now rookie of the year last year and finished 4th overall in my first season in PROSPEC. It was, wow, that was insane.
Yeah.
Nice.
It
So
was just a wild feeling.
so you've done a few different types of motorsport. Do you the one thing that I feel like I've heard for years and years and years from all these teams is that there's a different level of camaraderie in the drift community. You've done those different types of motorsports. What do you think? Is it drifting in totality, or is there something that's really there in that drift community?
That's a good question, because I wasn't around for all of the other motorsports long enough to feel it.
That's fair. That's fair.
But Taka and Yoshi welcomed me with such open arms,
Yeah.
where they know how I like to be spotted. They know like how they need to spot me and coach me and all of that. Where it's just drifting is one of the best motorsports in my eyes. It's just everyone's there for the same reason, to have fun, to win, especially at FD. Everyone's there to win.
Mm-hmm.
But off the track, everyone's friends with each other. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, do you need something? It's like, I think last year at St. Louis, I didn't even qualify due to just issues with the car.
Right.
And I was helping people out with tires. It's like, I got knocked out. Do you need anything? Like, I'm here. Do you need tools? Do you need parts? Whatever you need,
Yeah.
I'm here to help. I got knocked out. Like the least I could do right now is support everyone else there.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. Like, we've seen so many good examples of that over the years, and I think that's the one thing that really keeps us like super infatuated with drifting, right? Like it's that level of like we're all car people, and yeah, when we get on the track, I'm gonna make you eat it, but like when we're not on the track, then a lot of us are just dudes like doing car stuff, and we know how hard that we all work to be here. And maybe a few examples of things that get heated in the pits. I could think of a few that maybe, especially last year, that were pretty interesting to see and watch. But like for the most part,
Sure.
I feel like there's this heavy level of camaraderie where people really come to each other's aids, and they just want the sport to go forward, and they'll
Right.
do so much to make sure that happens.
Yeah, and I think we're at a time right now where just with all these big social media people like LZ and Chelsea, and just everyone's just now moving up in the ranks, where like the boat's moving, whether you're on it or not. Like
Right.
the drifting boats, it's gone. It has left the dock, and it's on its way to becoming the next biggest sport, bigger than NASCAR, perhaps bigger than F1 one day.
That's crazy.
But it has every feature that you like from every racing. So it's like, how do you not like drifting?
Yeah. I hope it gets there, man. I'll be honest with you. I feel like, I remember when it started, so I feel like I've been watching it for, 20 plus years. And, and I mean, it certainly has come miles and miles away from where it started. I mean,
What I think really makes it like special for spectators and stuff like that, when you see any sport, doesn't matter if it's motorsports or not, when you watch a sport and you say that looks so either fun or whatever that I want to go do that. That raises the level of like interest in there, because like I don't know how many people were watching NASCAR and see them going around tracks over and over again. And be like, I would love to drive there. Like I don't know if there's the same level, but people see people drifting and they go,
Sure.
you just know how fun that looks, and
Yeah.
you could just go. You don't need to do it in a competitive sense, and I think that kind of interest alone really kind of elevates the overall interest in the sport itself. So I definitely think you're right. I think it's going to go forward, and I think sim racing alone is going to really push the whole sport forward, and so that's what I really think.
For sure. And it's one of the only motorsports where you can go buy a stock car that has 150,000 miles on it
Yep.
and take it to a track and have the best day of your life.
Right.
Like you can't buy an F1 car. You can do it with go-karts, but that's not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And NASCAR, you can do, simple street stock spec cars, but it's not the same in my eyes. It's
Yeah.
like drifting, you can have cut knuckle Z still drifting with a Pro FD car,
Yeah.
depending on the track, of course.
Yeah, of
but
course.
You can do that.
Right.
You can't do that with any other motorsport.
It's a great
Yeah.
point. Really is.
Yeah, super interesting, man. So before we kind of wrap up, do we have any like definitive goals that we're like, these are the goals for this coming season? It's always a tough question because I think there's a lot of like elements to this question, but like, is there anything
For
in your
sure.
head you're like, when I leave this season, I want to have done this?
I want a podium every round this year.
That's sick.
That's my only goal.
That's what's up.
And
That's a goal.
honestly, it's the little things that add up.
Yeah.
I want there to be I want the team chemistry to be good. I want the car always working. I don't want any of the gremlins that we chased last year.
Right.
I want a car that can pull up to the line and it works every time, and just make sure of that. I want, obviously you can have the goal of, podiuming every round, but you need to look at how to get there first.
Right.
So it's like you need to go back to the drawing board and make sure all of your crew guys are healthy, fed, they're happy, they're having fun, and they're also there for the same reason. And no one's, feelings are hurt, anything like that. And kind of just as a driver, you need to focus about a lot of things, but one of the things that a lot of drivers don't do is making sure your crew is happy, is fed, is, hydrated, they're happy, they're having fun as well. Granted, we all want to win, but we need to make sure the people that are under the car day in, day out, they're having fun, they're happy.
Right.
Yep.
And I think that's another thing where if they're happy, I'm happy.
Right.
Like
And-
no one's going to be happy when we crash the car
Right.
and they're thrashing on it, and they don't need me all upset and, dealing with that and just being negative. Granted, they're going to deal with it because shit happens.
Yep.
Sorry, my French, but
You good.
it happens. And you need to make sure the team's energy is good. And I think that's my biggest goal for this year is we're all on the same track. Everyone's happy. All that we need to do is just get the car to the podium. And the only fault that it should be that let me reword that.
No, I kind of get where you're going though, Cole. Like I
Yeah.
get it. You're basically saying like I don't want anything to be an obstacle in
Other than
our season,
myself.
right? Other than how I drive. Like if you can just
Yeah.
get it down to that one piece of the puzzle, because then it allows you really just to say, all right, look, everything else is good. It's gravy. All I need to do is literally come here and drive. And if I can drive, then I'll figure out a way to get it to where it needs to be.
Yeah, my goal is if I'm not standing on the podium, it should be my fault of not driving hard enough.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
That's
it makes
my only goal.
It makes sense. It's the same reason that people don't want to win, by receiving a bye or somebody breaking. They want to win. The guys that want to win, that truly want to win, they want to win because they beat somebody.
Of course.
They won.
Yeah, I don't want to win off a technicality.
Right.
That's the worst way to win. I want all of my battles to be
Hard
head of
fought.
battle.
Yeah.
And I want the next guy, banging my door just like I'm on their door. It's like I want even battles. I want it to be the guy who's taking that extra step to impress the judges to be the deciding factor and not ever win or lose off a technicality. That's my biggest fear in drifting is it's going to probably get to that point one day, and that's not going to be fun.
Now, so now real quick on the ranking of things that are the most important for you for the season, where does Hugs from Greg Bucell rank?
Ooh.
Yeah, is it? I know it's a touchy subject.
Is he going out to every round, by the way?
He is.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I
Top
hope I get to
two,
see
maybe.
Top two. All right, I'll take top two.
I hope I get to see him at Jersey.
I don't know if you hugged him before, but he gives good hugs.
No, I know.
Really
No, I've hugged Greg plenty. In fact, I feel like, it's a rite of passage. But last question I'll give you here.
I got two more after.
All right, well, then you got to go because we got to.
I know. I'll be quick. I didn't even get a chance. How you feel about the new rules for the season?
It's good. I like the no qualifying format.
Yeah,
I like how everyone's qualified.
It seems like everyone's pretty positive towards that change. And then I had a real basic question just out of curiosity. What track are you looking forward to drive most? And then who are you most looking forward to battle against?
Ooh.
And then that's it for me.
I really just want to drive Atlanta and St. Louis again because those are tracks I just did not do well at last year.
Mm-hmm.
St. Louis didn't qualify. Atlanta got knocked down top 32.
Right.
And those are two tracks that I need redemption on.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then people I'm most excited to battle against. Connor's a good one. Connor Osoli.
Okay.
He's my boy. He's fun. He's always fun to drive with. Rudy's fun. Alan's fun. Anyone that's just going to give a heads-up battle, Casey's fun.
Yeah.
Anyone who's just going to drive 100% and just have that trust with the other driver is going to be the most fun.
Nice.
Like, if I know you're not going to play games on me, all right, then we can have fun. We can push each other. But when my spotter says, all right, back off a little bit, that's when it's like, that's not fun. That's not fun.
Dude, I think we ended it the right way. So we all wish you a lot of success and a lot of I don't want to say luck. We wish you a lot of success.
You're gonna go kill it.
Yeah, this season, man. And we appreciate you coming on here and hanging out with us for a little bit.
For sure, no problem.
Awesome. So, well, listen, that's it with us. We do this whole thing every week, and we'll be back next week doing the same damn thing. We'll catch you later.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, sick, man. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, man. We appreciate it.